Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to today's Masterclass centered around sustainability. My name is Arshia Karani, and I am the CEO and founder of Cocoon Active. And we're going to do a little case study into my brand. But really, I want to address this from a 10,000 foot view first. So, what does sustainability really mean? And yeah, let's get right into it. So I think a lot of what the common public knows about sustainability is actually it stems from companies and from brands and kind of what we absorb just from hearsay or just from seeing billboards or advertisements. And so I wanted to address this concept of greenwashing. And one of my favorite examples, especially in the fashion industry, is H&M. So greenwashing is a concept that is designed to make people believe that your company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is. There's this very common saying in sustainability that the most sustainable thing is to not make anything, not consume anything. And in fashion, it's to wear whatever you already have in your closet, which obviously, as somebody who designs and sells clothing, that doesn't always work. But I wanted to use this example of H&M because a lot of it, H&M is kind of this classic example of fast fashion where they're producing and overproducing all these things in the world and putting them out. And a lot of these garments end up in landfills. And yet they came out with this huge campaign in 2016 with a huge celebrity endorsement of Olivia Wilde saying that they are launching this conscious collection and they're pioneering through sustainable fashion with organic textiles and this huge brand overhaul that they're planning over the next 10 years. And yet in the same year, H&M produced over 600 million new garments, most of which qualified as fast fashion. There are companies that do it right. This is a brand that I really love. It's called Allbirds. They sell direct-to-consumer shoes that are primarily made out of natural materials. And I really love the way that they put forth their sustainability platform. And I really encourage you to go on their site and check it out because it's really, really well done. But they basically boil it down to measure, reduce, and offset. So they measure everything from emissions to raw materials. They reduce impact by using natural and recycled materials whenever possible. And they offset carbon with these materials as well. So now it's time to look at my baby, Cocoon Active. We offer premium activewear and hijabs for Muslim women. We are a digitally native brand, which just means we're direct to consumer. We're an e-commerce brand. You buy us online and we ship to you. We pride ourselves in superior design as well as being ethically manufactured. Now, I say this because I wanted to hone in on this idea of building a business around ethical manufacturing. And for us, we define ethical as both ethical in terms of no sweatshops and paying fair wages and all that kind of stuff, but also in terms of sustainability. And so what are the considerations that we really think about when we're talking about sustainability? And obviously I'm coming at this from the perspective of building an apparel brand, but I do think that if you're making anything, any physical thing, these are kind of the considerations that it boils down to. So it's the materials of what goes into making your product, the manufacturing processes that are behind the raw materials all the way through the production of the product, the transportation, and that can be from within your supply chain and or getting your finished product to you as a brand, like to your warehouse and or to your customer, and then the life cycle of the product. So I put RIP in there because eventually every single thing that we have and that we own ends up having a deterioration, right? And it's no longer in use. So what happens along the process of that product being used, and then what happens when it's no longer usable? So I do believe that as a small business and as a day one business, you can start to build your company from the standpoint of having a sustainable ethos. So for most companies that are selling physical things, this boils down into three categories. That's supply chain, packaging, and your actual product. Here are some questions that, just mirroring the two slides before, but here are some questions that I think are really helpful to start asking yourself when it comes to how do I think about implementing sustainability at each level in my funnel. So for example, in supply chain, what raw materials are being used? Are they natural? Are they synthetic? Are they creating harm in the environment around me or around where they're being sourced from? And does that make them sustainable? How are they manufactured? Again, kind of going back to like, what are the emissions and what are the word is escaping me, but basically what are the effects of you manufacturing your product, right? Same with packaging. How does your product get to you? How does it get to your customer? What is required in terms of packaging? And then your product. What happens as your customer uses your product, and then after they use it? Where does it end up? Does it end up in a landfill? Can it be recycled? So let's dive into this first one, supply chain. So at Cocoon Active, we produce better activewear in a better way. So we start really we believe that we are a human company and that we exist to serve other humans. And so for us, that translates into a sweatshop free workforce where we pay a living wage and all of that stuff. But we also, when we think about sustainability, we try to partner with facilities and organizations, and we really see them as our partners in the supply chain that are on the forefront of making waves in sustainability. So for example, our manufacturers have been in Portugal, and in Portugal, our main sewing factory, for example, they put in like solar panels. The next part of that is utilizing raw materials. So we use materials that are natural, they're not synthetic, so they have less carbon emissions, and they also reduce water consumption along the way as well. And then lastly, we believe in order to hold ourselves accountable to these ethics and to the sustainability ethos that we've built into our brand, we opt into being transparent with our customers. So I'm going to play our little video where you can kind of see the BTS of our factories in Portugal. I mean, I love this video a lot, and I show it every chance I get because I think it's so cool. Like, as a customer, before I started this company, I had never seen what it looks like inside of a factory. I had never really thought about where the materials come from, and like that fibers have to then become yarn, and yarn has to become fabric, and then fabric has to get dyed. And then there's all these personal touch points, right? You see throughout the video that there's all these people touching the fabric. And what I really wanted to start establishing by being transparent is, as I said before, like being accountable to ourselves, but also starting to educate the customer around ethics and sustainability on a much bigger level. Okay, so the next thing I want to jump into is packaging. Packaging, I think, we can probably all agree that we, just as the customers, we know how much waste goes into packaging. And again, wanted to kind of pose some questions to you guys. If I was with you in person, I would get some people to start participating. But here are like 3 big questions that I ask myself and that we ask internally as we're thinking about packaging. So how does the product get from the manufacturer to the brand warehouse to us? So this photo right here, you guys are probably really familiar with this, but each garment, for example, has to go into a plastic bag. This protects it from the elements of weather, staining, and as the package gets moved between so many different hands, it protects it from just the elements of the world and the universe, right, before it gets to its customer. So something really simple that we do is we use 100% recycled materials in what is called a poly bag. And then same thing here. This next one, this is me very proudly holding our poly mailers, which this is how we get our products then to the customer from the warehouse. And we work with a supplier that is called Eco Enclosed. If you are looking for poly mailers, they're awesome. They're US based, and they also use fully recycled materials for their mailers. So those are just like some really easy things that you can do. And then other questions that we ask ourselves are like, what's included in or on the product, often for compliance. So think like labels, stickers, that kind of thing, that in which you can be conscious of sustainability. And then that last question, what is shipped with your product, right? So in addition to how it's shipped, which is just like the pure packaging, oftentimes you get like postcards or stickers and stuff like that with e-commerce products. And so how can you be aware of the waste that you are potentially creating when it comes to those pieces of your packaging as well? So I wanted to do a simple deep dive into something that's so easy. It's called a hand tag. I'm sure all of you guys have seen these before, interacted with them. You don't really care that much about them, but these go on pretty much every single garment in the universe, right? So whether you're shopping from like Target or Macy's or something like that, or you're ordering stuff online, these hand tags are usually pinned into or clipped into your clothing, right? And you get those little plastic tags and they're really annoying, and you cut them off or you pull them off, and then some of it is still stuck in your shirt for like a year and you're wondering why it doesn't come off. Yeah, that all comes from a hand tag. So I wanted to do a deep dive into how you can go about making your hand tag more sustainable. So something really, really simple here is, instead of using a plastic attachment from the string on our hand tag to go into the garment, we just use a metal safety pin. So something super easy. I, as a customer, every time I get one of these with a safety pin, I always save the safety pins. They don't have loops at the bottom. I use them in my day-to-day life. Super easy for me as a customer also to recycle and reuse. The next thing here is the cotton string, which is tied and is, instead of being polyester based. So polyester is a synthetic material. So we use a cotton string, and you tie it at the top instead of having a plastic adjuster. So it's a little bit more manual, but the cost is pretty much the same, and manufacturers don't really like upcharge you for doing something like that instead of having the plastic. And then the last thing that's super simple is an FSC certified paper or post-consumer waste paper. So FSC certified means it's certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. That is a certification that is super valuable, and that's something, again, super easy to find when you're using any kind of paper products. And it means that basically the paper is being sourced from forests that are not being overly forested. So that's like just one item that is just super easy to break down into all different components to make it more sustainable. The next thing I wanted to get into, and this video is already starting to play, but we basically have brand swag that we send out with our direct to consumer packages. So we send out these postcards, we have stickers in the packaging. And so, for example, again, for our postcards, we use FSC certified post-consumer waste paper, so it's recycled. We use soy-based inks, and then we have plant-based materials in our stickers for our packaging, which means that if and when people rip the sticker or throw it in the trash, even if it ends up in a landfill, it rains one time and that sticker just dissolves, right? So there's no plastic film that is just going to last in those landfills forever. And then finally, the last piece of this and the most important piece of this is your product, right? So my company, we sell activewear. So okay, your products get made, your supply chain piece is done, then your products get to you, and then your products get to your customer. And what does your customer start doing? They're going to start using your product, right? So no matter what your product is, they're going to start using it. There's going to be wear and tear. You know, for us, for active, like people tend to really kind of abuse these products. And so how do we really think about the life cycle of the product? So for me, this really is a giant circle because it actually goes back to the raw materials. So we use a fabric called tencel, which originates from wood and then turns into pulp and then turns into fiber and then turns into yarn. And so this product is very innovative. It's made a lot of it. The reason we do our production in Portugal is because Portugal is very well known for doing work with tencel and with sustainable textiles. And basically this material, in addition to being high performance and being an awesome option for activewear, it's also biodegradable, recyclable, and it does not shed microfibers. So I think probably a lot of you guys have also been you've heard things about the clothing we wear. Every time we wash it, every time we put it in the washer, we put it in the dryer, it's shedding microfibers, right? And so the reason that happens is because essentially all clothes that are synthetic, so think like polyester, nylon, these are made from petroleum runoffs. So essentially how you can think about a lot of that clothing is like it's plastic. So every time you wash this plastic, there's microfibers coming out of it. So for us, like because we're using natural fibers, whatever fibers are coming out and going into the water streams, for example, right? They're not harming the water stream, right? They're not harming the environment as they are being used, right? And so this is something that as a company we think about. And then at the end of this journey of this product, right? Like the product, because it's made out of natural materials, it can be, if it does end up in a landfill, it will over time biodegrade. And so this brings me to my kind of last and final point. And this is something that I am really excited to show you and really proud of. But I bring this up because here you see a bunch of 5-star reviews and you see one of my favorite product shots that we've ever done. But we've done a couple of collections, and sustainability was always really, really important to us. And so when we actually launched our first collection, we were using a merino wool product, which now there's actually a lot of talk about, is that sustainable, is that not sustainable? But we were using this product and we found that after we put this product in the market, so customers already had, for example, our shirts, we found that one of the colors that we were offering was completely, like, it was just like tearing. So there was something with like the dyeing process or the finishing process, and it was like tearing. So we had the horrible reviews on this product, and it was really hard. I mean, it was really difficult. We basically had to like recall it. We took a bunch of stock off the market. And the reason I say this is because sustainability is not yet mainstream, no matter what industry you are working in. And it is really hard to kind of meet these quality standards that you want for and that you strive for, and like make it the first time. So what I really want to impress upon you here is that it is hard to find the right people. It is hard to find the right manufacturers and the right raw materials, but you kind of have to keep going, because industry, like in any industry, companies that are starting now that are building sustainability into their ethos from day one are the ones who are going to set the curve. And the more that we do the work that we're doing, everyone in this workshop here, the more that we do the work that we're doing to set that curve, the higher the demand will go. And then, you know, kind of the prices and the availability of both materials and manufacturers will become easier to access for everybody. And so those are the categories in which how I think about sustainability for my company. And we have about a minute and a half left, and just two quick things that I wanted to touch on. I have been running this company for about 3 years full time, and I know that the room here is generally filled with college students. And so I think that there is kind of this mainstream narrative about what it means to start a company, when you do it, you know, how committed you are, and what that looks like, right? So you might start this company or this project, and you might be doing it on the side, and then the idea is to go full time and then to make a career out of it. And I kind of in a state of like vulnerability, but also honesty, I just wanted to kind of share with you my journey over the last 6 months or a year, or like 8 months based on coronavirus, is that this was kind of the year that we were hoping to scale up as a brand. And then coronavirus hit and our entire supply chain broke down. So all of these things that I'm telling you, like all these manufacturers that we had or that we have, a lot of them shut down. A lot of them weren't willing to work with small brands anymore because it wasn't worth the risk. And so we kind of just went on pause. We went on a really big pause this year. And it really is like quite scary, you know, for brands that no matter where you are in the life cycle of your company. And I wanted to share that because I recently went and started looking for full-time jobs. And I just started about a month ago working in a full-time role at a different company. And I just kind of wanted to say that like, that's something that's not really talked about. And I still see myself as a founder, and I still take a lot of pride in my brand. And I hope to be able to like go back to it and like kind of transition back into full-time eventually. But I just wanted to say that wherever you are and whenever you need to like go full-time or whenever you need to scale back on it, it's okay. As long as I think you just kind of like stay true to these, not to end on like a super cheesy note, but I do think that like staying true to like the values and ethics that you set for yourself as a company from day one are going to keep you proud of what you build. And they're also going to keep you wanting to come back to it, right? Especially in the world that we're in today, with so much just like turmoil, and like where social issues for companies also are becoming just increasingly important for us to take a stance.